Hey guys, it's another Thursday, and I'm just so excited to be here today and just sharing this platform with my brother from a different mother, Mr. Stephen Thurston. We're live on Moments of Clarity. There's so much that's going on in the world today, so we're just excited that you took time out of your day to come and chop up with us. Please, you can engage, so by all means, please tap, give us some hearts, please share, and follow us, obviously, on Facebook and all of our other social media platforms. But I'm excited to have my boy Stephen J. Thurston in the building today. Bro, how have you been, man?
Man, things amazing. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate you sharing your platform with me. I love what you do, man. You're doing the doggone thing. So thank you for bringing me along for the ride today.
Man, you are as well, man. You're doing a lot of great things, man. So you have a podcast that you do on Facebook as well that's called Mirror Moment. So tell us about that podcast.
Yeah, man. So Mirror Moments has been going for like maybe 6, 7 years now. Every
Okay.
Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. My lane, I have two lanes, relationship and leadership. So whichever one of those you need some insight, encouragement in, that's where you get me at Mirror Moments. And it's about changing what's within so that we can change what's around. Introspection is kind of the undercurrent behind the things that I do. Because Charlie, a lot of times we point our fingers at other people. They need to do this. They need to change. They need to be different, when we ought to be pointing back at us. And if we can become better versions of ourselves, then hopefully the environments that we engage, the people that we engage, they'll become better because we're better.
Absolutely. I often say a lot of times on this particular platform that the world don't change without us individually. So
Yeah.
that does mean we do have to do some levels. We do have to do some personal work and personal growth, obviously, to effect and bring about that change in the world. It does start with us individually. So just a note, the world don't change without you. So the reality is when we change, obviously the world changes, right?
That's it.
So yeah, we're gonna have some great conversations today. So Stephen, man, you do a lot of great things, man. So you work at Salem Baptist Church. So tell us about your position there at Salem Baptist Church.
Yeah, man. So I jokingly sent Pastor Meeks a text 3 years ago after Daryl Scarborough got called to a church in Cali. And I said, hey, man, I hear you're going to have a job opening. Send me an application. Laugh out loud. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting in the cigar bar enjoying a nice Cuban cigar, having a blast, man. And my phone is showing James Meeks calling. So I pick up. Hey, Pastor, what's up? Hey, Stevie, when you moving back to Chicago? I said, sir, it's 26 degrees there. It's 80 here. I ain't moving back. And so he's like, well, you sent me that text a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't know what I was going to do until I saw the text. And I saw the text like, that'd be a good idea. Let me bring Stevie on back home. And so that conversation rolled out, and he told me he knew that I was doing project management. I'm PMP certified, so I'm a real project manager. And he asked me how I had incorporated that in the work that I was doing in ministry there in Atlanta, told him about it. And he was like, yeah, man, I think I could use that. So moved me back to Chicago. I kind of assumed the role of like executive pastor to help him, to lift some of the burden off of him, to make the load lighter, to help put some systems and structures in place to make the workflow of Salem smoother. So I've been there for about 3.5 years serving in that capacity.
Man, that is great, man. And so we have that definitely in common. I was there at Salem for about almost 10 years there, and had a great time working with the team and the staff there at Salem Baptist Church. So
Yes,
that's
sir.
great times, man. So you're connected with a great organization, man. So
For
they
sure.
do a lot of great work on the south side of Chicago
That's it, man. The
at the
greatest
House of
church in the
Hope, man.
world in the hood.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. So I always start off my the podcast, man, just asking, especially black men, man, how are you doing? There's so much going on in the world, man. How are you doing? How are you processing in the midst of all of this chaos?
Yeah, man. Thank you for raising that question. That's important. I'm a big proponent of mental health in that train of thought in that field. So I'm in a good place. I have a therapist that I engage, and let me help Black people to understand that I don't see a therapist because I'm crazy. I see a therapist to keep from becoming crazy because I'm
Yes, sir.
dealing with people that don't recognize that they're crazy. So you can have Jesus and a therapist, because some issues prayer ain't gonna fix by itself. You need a medication. You need somebody to talk to flush some stuff out with and through with. So I'm in a good space. I'm aware of what's happening around me. I'm trying to do my part, raise my voice, use my platform to inspire, to encourage, to spur, to piss white people off who need to be pissed off, and to move them to a place of action and activity, to be allies active allies in our fight and our struggle for social justice and equality. So I'm in a good space, man.
Man, so good. So that's a great place to start. So how are you kicking up dust? How are you pissing off white people? And why is that important?
Because there's something called white fragility. For those who are unfamiliar with that term, I'll define it for you. It's when white people seek to disengage from conversations relating to our struggle, our issue, and switch that to the side while ignoring the lived experience of African Americans because it makes them uncomfortable. And so they want to centralize their comfortability. And so I use the platform of my Facebook, my social media, my Instagram, my Twitter, as well as the preaching platform to clarify truth and bring truth to power, speak truth to power, to blow my trumpet, to give them ideas and suggestions on what they can do. I've been invited by a couple of white pastors to engage them in fruitful conversation, to help their unbelief, to help them to understand what they can do to transition into that place of being active allies and causing them to recognize that you have privilege. Let's recognize that. And having privilege isn't a sin. It just comes with more responsibility.
Right.
And so you've got to recognize that what you have has been the result of looting us for 400 years. We won't talk about looting. Let's talk about what real looting looks like. So I challenge them on that, give them the facts, the data, and the stats to move them from that place of confirmation bias, because they'll take information and twist it to fuel their own narrative and perspective. And I believe I'm well versed. I grew up at Rainbow Push. Jesse Jackson is like a mentor, godfather. So I know the ins and outs of how to have those conversations with clarity and conviction and with data to back up what I say. And so it provides for me the opportunity to challenge them. And at the end of the day, piss some of them off who don't want to own the fact that they've got some racist tendencies and ways that are just inherent within them. Just own it so that we can grow from it. Because if you don't face it, you'll never be able to fix it. And I'm gonna have a mirror moment with you and put that mirror to your face and make you look at yourself and challenge you to change some of your ways.
That's great, man. I talk about this on this platform a lot, and most people don't realize that it is, and it's if you understand. Scripture is so clear about understanding the natural things because it helps you to get clarity about the spiritual things.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that it's and I say this because it's true, but I just try to make them think about it because I'm a natural logician. So I try to communicate in logic for people. So it is very, very, very possible that all of us was born and raised within a bubble.
Yes.
That's not like that. This is just where I start people to thinking.
Yes, sir.
And so we're raised, we're born, we're shaped within this bubble. But however, when you get out and start interacting with the world, you'll see that perhaps maybe within this bubble there are some ideals that need to be challenged.
Yes.
In order for us to be progressive and in order to be a progressive unit to move forward. So I always try to challenge people to pop their bubble. All of us have them, and so it's just a matter of recognizing, I may have been raised with certain ideals that may not be right, or that may not be working towards unity or working towards unifying and bringing people together. And so if that's the case, I need to challenge those ideas so I can become better for my social circle that I'm in, but also be better for the world. We talked about this earlier, man. It's spot on. The world don't change without each one of us individually.
Yes, sir.
So if the world's going to change, it has to start with us individually. So speak to that change and speak to why that's important, preacher.
Sure. There is a philosopher and a futurist by the name of Alvin Toffler. You can look him up, Google him when you get a chance. And he made a profound statement. He said that the most illiterate of the 21st century are not those who can't read or write, but rather those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And we find a lot of illiterate people in our cultural context today based upon that definition of their inability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And we've got to challenge people who live in these bubbles that just because you grew up with certain beliefs or ways of behaving or living that have been imposed upon you by your education or by your upbringing or by societal influences, You got to recognize that some of those are no longer helpful, no longer beneficial to you as an individual or to the collective community called humanity. And so you got to move from that place of illiteracy to becoming literate, being able to exegete let me use some preacher terms, exegete your context and understand what you need to get rid of that's no longer beneficial for you or for us to move forward as a human race.
Man, I said this on a live, man, a few weeks ago that the challenge that we're facing is that we're definitely just dealing with old ideas.
Yes.
And old ideas. And so I call them ghosts because these are ideas and ideologies from old century, 1800, 19, whatever, these old ghosts that are haunting still today. And if we don't, again, challenge these ideas no longer serve our modern society.
Correct.
And so if we talk about wanting to be a part of a modern society, we have to obviously change these ideals. And it's crazy, a lot of people like to talk about the Constitution, but the Constitution talks about supporting this progressive movement that people can't, for whatever reason, seem to live up to. People use that Constitution when it's convenient, but it's like some of these ideals are right there, guys. Y'all can't. You can't process that right there. And so how do you don't see that this is a violation of civil rights?
Sure.
So let's talk about this Breonna Taylor situation.
Let's do it.
Man, so with all the information that's going forth with the Attorney General, they had a jury on yesterday and came up with a I don't even know if it's called a verdict, and it's just all bad, bro. So where are we, man? And so with all the riots and people are frustrated right now and people can't process. People like to talk about the why Black people are upset. Or they talk about the what, like the what is, or they're protesting or they're rioting, but nobody never really deals with that why, because when you deal with the why, it sort of kind of brings clarity to the situation, right?
Yeah, we wouldn't have to say Black Lives Matter if for over 300 years Black lives didn't matter.
Right.
We have to get to the source and stop focusing on the symptom, as you're saying, Charlie.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, how people love to talk about the what, they're turning up the targets, they're burning down their own communities, and I understand, but we don't own none of this bull, we don't own none of this. Yes. So stop saying that we're burning down our communities, we don't own this stuff, and I know now, just for the record, I don't condone violence, I don't condone rioting, I don't condone any of that bad behavior, I don't condone shooting police officers. I think that's bad behavior. We have to also look at it and see that this bad behavior is a result of a system that's not working. Yes.
So, I mean, it's like a child that you have to discipline. You can't get upset about the disciplinary process until you address why the child is acting out. And that goes back to that fragility piece of always deflecting and not dealing with the main thing and keeping the main thing. They didn't hurt us, and we've done everything that you've asked us to do. We've been peaceful. We just knelt. We've prayed. We've done everything to try to get y'all's attention, and y'all refuse to get the attention. Y'all refuse to get the point that we're seeking to make. And so people are frustrated and tired, and they've run out of options. And so anytime you back anything into a corner, and anything that's facing extinction is going to fight like hell to live. And that's what you see happening. Black people, younger Black people, are fighting like hell to live because they refuse to die at the hand of a police officer. You're not going to have your knee on my neck and I'm just going to lay on the ground. If I'm going to die, I'm going out fighting. I'm going out swinging. I'm going to put up some kind of energy, some kind of effort. And that's what you see happening within our communities. We've done everything y'all asked us to do, and you ain't changed nothing. So, hey, and Charlie, I know, and I'm with you about bad behavior and what's right and what's moral, but I don't believe some stuff is going to change until the headlines start reading police officers shot dead sleeping in their own bed in their suburban homes.
Yeah.
At some point, they're going to have to recognize you asked for this. You set the stage for this. And like dear brother Malcolm X said, the roosters are going to come home. And you're going to have to deal with the fact that you've ignored our cries and our pleas and our efforts to bring about peace and justice in a peaceful way. And now We going to get concealed carries, and we going to. I went to the gun store the other day, and he's like, "Sir, the waiting list is like a year for what you're trying to get, because your cousins them then came in here and bought up everything."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's real. And you get it. You know what I'm saying? So being black in America, man, it's a challenge, man. It comes with, especially being a black man and or a black woman. Just being black in this country is problematic all by itself.
sure,
And my heart goes. I am a feminist, so I'm always trying to uplift and build up our black women, man, because this country and has, man, been real disrespectful on so many levels as it relates to black women. And it's our responsibility as black men to make sure they're covered, to make sure to make sure they're esteemed, and to make sure that they felt like they're the queens that they are.
yes,
So people keep saying, I hear people saying we just need better legislation, and when people say that to me, that's a rub for me. Because it suggests that the legislation that's not there is not speaking to this stuff. And I'm saying, yeah, we have a Civil Rights Act that's speaking to all this ish.
sure,
If these people would just obey the law. And so it's interesting how police they have a license to kill, man, and they can kill any one of us, and the unions will cover their bad behavior. And it's like, that's some bull. And we just got to make sure that, I mean, my attitude is like, yeah, not on my watch. So if I have to get involved in this, so that's why I use this platform. We definitely use it to motivate, to inspire, but educate, but to, call BS what it is.
Yes, sir.
And so for people that are saying we need better legislation, what's your take on that?
Sure. I think it's not like a silver bullet for this fight that we're engaged. We got to hit it from every angle. I am a strong proponent of policy shifts and policy change. It's because of qualified immunity that police officers are able to kill without any repercussions. It's because of the contracts that mayors sign off on from police unions that have all of these legal loopholes that are built in that keep police officers from being held accountable for their actions. So yes, we have to have that whole policy fight. At the same time, we've got to have people in office that are going to honor the law, honor the legislation that's in place to protect us, and stop trying to gut it like they have done with the Voting Rights Act. And so, you mentioned the AG there with the Breonna Taylor case. We got to stop having black Trojan horses that push through white agendas. And so using platforms like this, using churches to raise up politicians who are on the same page and platform as us, that understand our issues and our fight, and they're going to fight for us rather than fight to get in play and in position and win curry and win favor with people that don't look like us and don't care about us. And so from every angle, from marching to protesting, to fighting, to running people for political office, to fighting for change in policy and legislation, it takes all of that, man, to get where we're trying to go.
Yeah, that's great, man. And so there are a lot of people that don't necessarily believe in the system. People lose faith in the system. And I understand it for black people. I still try to encourage them to make sure their voice is heard.
Yes.
So to make sure they stay a part of this political process, especially as it relates to voting, but not just voting, but finding out about who you're putting in office. Make them earn that vote. Don't just vote for any Tom, Dick, or Harry that stands up. And even it don't matter the race for me. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I do want more black people involved in the political process, but I do want them to be qualified, and I do want them to not sell out when they get in position.
Sure.
Over party. Always put people over party, and that cray right there is pretty interesting.
Yeah, man, you got to follow the money trail. I was actually going to run for political office several years ago, and my key piece to that was I'm stacking up my money, raising my money, so I don't have to go to nobody and become beholden to them. And I can push and fight for what I want to fight for. And that gives me another kind of level of freedom, even from the preaching perspective and saying some of the stuff I say. For the people that follow me on social media, people are like, you say that? You're a preacher, you're a pastor? Yeah, because I'm free. Don't nobody own me. I got my own money. If Salem want to get rid of me tomorrow, I'm going to still have my cars and my house and my investments.
That's right.
My money. My father taught me that you always create and control your own narrative, and you do that by having your own money. And so we've always been free. Thurstons have been free to say what we want to say, move how we want to move, do what we want to do, because we've built in that infrastructure to take care of self, to create that platform of freedom. And so
That's
more
good,
black
man.
people got to do that, man. That entrepreneurship role, getting your paper, handling your business so that you can move freely and have the space to say what you need to say when you need to say it.
That's right. So let's talk about church. You work at a prominent church in Chicago, the greatest church in the world, Salem Baptist Church. Shout out to Salem. So in church, most people will argue and say that is the place where racism does not exist. Uh, because as Christians we love each other, and we look out for each other, and that's just a Bible thing to do. So does racism exist in church, and how and why, and
Yeah.
why hasn't been addressed to be uprooted out of the church? What's happening? What's your take on that?
Man, there's so many angles I can come with this. So I'm gonna try not to be too long with it here, but yes, it exists in the church. I'm always laughing, at least on the inside, when I hear the concept of the multi-ethnic church, because that does not exist. When white people want you to come and join their church, they're looking for assimilation. They want you to join in what they do and how they do it, and they're going to have limits on the power that they allow you to have, on the positions that they allow you to have. Some of my black brothers who talking about, yeah, man, I'm going to plant this church and we're going to have all these white members. No, ain't too many white people going to allow you as a black man or black woman to become the shepherd of their soul. Just think about that.
Yeah.
No, they're not going to let you do that. So, you got a few who will come on crossover, but that's not going to happen. Dr. King said that 11 o'clock is the most segregated hour in America. It was true and it remains true because we have our own cultural traditions and ways, our experience of God and with God. Even how we read the Bible, Charlie, is different than how white people read the Bible.
That's true.
We read it through a totally different lens. Slavery really impacted our theological framework and perspective. And so we read the Bible differently. And you'll even see with either younger African Americans that are more fluent, they even read the biblical text different than their older parents who are more connected to social justice, civil rights, and slavery. So there's a different reading of the text, different interpretation of the text, how we see God, how we interact with God. All of that stuff exists. And even from a biblical perspective, supremacy is all throughout the scripture.
That part.
Yeah. Now, Jesus came to fight back and to push back against all of that. But you see this, the chosen people. You see these structures, these classisms, these segregated moments throughout scripture. I mean, I preached the other week dealing with Nehemiah and building the wall. And we always look at those guys, the three fellas, and their names escape me for the moment, that were coming against him building the wall. And we're like, oh, those are bad guys. They're enemies. But if you really read the text for what the text is really saying, it's not really like that. These were guys who were not full Jews. They were Samaritans. They had some mixed blood. They were mulatto, who were saying we should be a part of this too. But Nehemiah and the crew were saying, no, y'all ain't purebreds. So you can't do what we doing and engaging in building the temple. You can't worship. There's segregation there. And we don't even read that when we read the text because we've been conditioned. Nehemiah is the good guy. These guys are the bad guy. But it was actually Nehemiah and his crew that were holding up segregation. They were racist. So, yeah, before I make the saints mad, dealing with the accurate reading of the text.
Man, listen here. Oh, that's good stuff right there, man. So I most people just don't. I think people just don't understand history in a lot of ways, and that's on both sides. And I think the more we can understand history, I think we can make some collective changes to affect our present and our future.
Yes.
But most people, especially as it relates to history, people like to sugarcoat it. And of course it's layered with cover-ups. And so you have to dissect that, and build context from history, just like you do scripture and everything else. You got to keep digging because there's so much that's not there, that you have to use other resources to research and find out. When you understand, obviously, even the way the Bible was introduced to Black people.
Sure.
As a form of control, because it first started out with the slave Bible and it had certain text in it,
Sure, man.
not with the promises, but just with obey your master and submit, uh, you know, and still we still see some of that control in this, even in the mind of some black people. There, I say they're whitewashed.
Yeah.
So speak to some of that,
Yeah, it's amazing how you can become like the thing that you hate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be so ingrained and indoctrinated into those ways that once you reach a level of power, you become the oppressor and now oppress people. I see this a lot in church from the pastoral lens and how they talk to people, how they treat people, the rules and regulations, the hypocrisy, all of that, man. It's a dangerous space to be in. And there's a constant challenge for us, especially as you rise in power and leadership, to have that humble spirit, to remain in touch with the people, taking the pulse of the people, so that you can remain connected to them, to feel their pain, so that you can adequately minister to the misery of the masses with the mercy of the master. It's a dangerous place when you get too disconnected from the people that you're seeking to serve, and you move from that place of serving people to lording over people.
Yeah. Dangerous place to be in, bro. Dangerous place to be in. Because again, you do see that a lot in church, where there's a lot of manipulation, and I try to, as I'm working and coaching with pastors, like, man, your job is not to control people. So please,
Right.
if you thought that was your thing, man, you got into the wrong the wrong position, the wrong career. You chose the wrong career to be in. Our job is not to control people, not to manipulate them, to control them, but speak truth, communicate, cover them with prayer, and love them. That's it. That's the job for the most part.
It, man.
Yeah, and so that it's so much going on, bro. There's so much going on, and then you have to figure out too, where are we getting information from? There are so many outlets, man, that are out there. They're just spewing so much just bad information. I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier, is getting clear within yourself, having some level of communion with you, so that you can get clarity about what your belief systems are, things you stand on, things you believe, because there's so much bad information out there, man.
Sure, man.
And it's causing people, man, just to, go into these strange places, man. I have lost so many friends over the last few months just because for me speaking out or just saying a simple statement like Black Lives Matter. And we don't realize it's an indictment against this country that we even have to say anything like that.
Right. But no, so, you didn't. Let me clarify something for you. You didn't lose friends. You just found out who your friends are.
That's real talk, Rob.
Because
that's real
pressure and pain and trouble will reveal the true essence of people, because people cannot consistently behave in a way that's inconsistent with who and what they really are. And what's in you will eventually come out of you. It just takes the right turbulence and pressure shaking on it for it to explode. And then that which is in you is going to ultimately come out of you.
Yep, absolutely, man. So with everything that's going on in the world, so with this, let's speak a little bit more to the Breonna Taylor situation, man. Just with the verdict and everything that's going on, and we know that they're probably going to appeal the case. They'll probably go up to a higher court. But just locally, man, how people, and this is the reason why you can't sit on the sidelines and watch the world happen or watch the world change. Each one of us have to use our voice. That is our instrument. That is our God-given instrument. And the reality is the only way real change happens is when we speak up. When you see something,
get involved.
Say something.
That's it. Yeah, man. And so, vocalizing through our vote, in our marching, in our protests. And as you mentioned earlier, even with the voting piece, like this upcoming election, we're not just voting for president. You got to vote down ballot, because the decisions that you make about the AG, about sheriffs, about mayors, Congress people, all of that directly impacts you.
Right.
There's a whole lot of stuff that impacts you at the local level well before you get up to the presidential level. And we've got to have a voice in that. We've got to put ourselves in position to be a part of the jury of our peers, so that there's I saw an amazing case the other day where the white judge dismissed the case because Black man is on trial and there are no Black people in the jury box. And he said none of his peers are here. So we're going to have to do this thing all over again. So it takes us voting, being in position to serve on juries, learning more about the judicial process, the legislative process. So again, back to Breonna Taylor, and we have to pay attention to the charges that were filed against the officers, the burden of proof that has to be there, because when these things happen, oh, we want first degree murder. But do you know what the burden of proof is to get a first degree murder conviction? Nah, you ain't Googled that part. I know a lot of us go to Facebook law school, but I want you to dig a little deeper so that you can understand if they're charging them at a certain level with certain crimes. They know the law. They know what's going to stick and what's not going to stick. I think I can talk about this and not get in any kind of trouble, but my mom actually was a juror for the R. Kelly trial. And I asked her when that was over, how did Robert get free? How did y'all say he was not guilty? And my mom helped me to understand, Stephen, it was the charge that he was charged with and how it was written. When you look at what he was charged with and how it was written, we could not convict him of that. We saw the video, we saw his face, we knew what was going on, but the charge that was filed against him would not allow us to convict him. Understand how they play the game.
Yeah.
And so we got to be in tune with all of that, man, and get up off of our blessed assurances, as my father would say. Do the study, do the research, ask questions instead of making statements, so that we can learn, glean, and grow, and better put ourselves in position to make effective change that benefits all of us as a collective community.
That is great, man. And so I know you operate in the life coaching space.
Yeah.
So as a life coach, obviously, you know, always anybody that aspires to be in this space, I think the biggest thing is learning your story, identifying your story. And that's where you sort of kind of life coach from, is your life experience, right?
Sure.
So tell me about an obstacle that you may have had to overcome to be an effective life coach that you now operate in.
Yeah, man. Stopping myself. That's the biggest thing for me. And what I mean by that, you have to consider my context. Having my father's name, being my father's son, fourth generation Thurston, there are certain kind of expectations and provisions and parameters people set around you. I remember going to job interviews, man, and the whole conversation had nothing to do with my resume, nothing to do with the job that I wanted, what I could bring to the table. But the whole hour was talked about who my father was, what my father has done, what my father has accomplished. And then at the end of the interview, oh, you're Thurston, you don't need this job, you got money. So in the back of my head, that often would play. And I'm like, yeah, I can't pursue this opportunity. I can't do this. And I had to move beyond that. What people would think, does this fit within the parameters of what people have expected of me? Even when I had played and toyed with running for office, I was pastoring at that time at New Covenant, and people would come to me and say, you can't do that. You can't be a politician. You're a preacher. As if there hadn't been a precedent of people doing both at the same time. And
right.
Both can't be a form of ministry and outreach and serving the community. So getting beyond allowing those things to stop my dream, my vision, my desires was the biggest challenge that I've had to face, man.
That's good. And so for someone that may aspire to be in this space, man, what's like what is like some words of wisdom that you can offer them, so that people that may aspire to be a life coach, give us some words of wisdom.
Sure. I think one of the best things that's happened for me was I changed my major. When I was in college, I was dual degree engineering and math at Morehouse. My last year, I shifted over to sociology. A lot of that had to do with me being called into preaching and knowing that that was going to be the path. Now, I started preaching before I made the major change, but looking down the road, okay, I'm probably going to end up pastoring. So let me put some things in place. Sociology and psychology, shifting my major in that direction helped me to understand me better, which helped me to understand also people better, behavior patterns, thought processes, cognitive development, all of that. That helped me to tap into people. And so I don't have a prophetic gift. I'm not all spooky and spiritual, but I can see stuff coming because I've learned the patterns of human behavior. And right. So I can speak to stuff that's going to happen in people's lives based upon some stuff that's already happened because I had that training and that education. So I would encourage anybody in this type of space to learn something, even if you don't get a degree. a certification, read the books, take some classes, watch some YouTube videos, TED Talk, something to get you some knowledge into how human beings operate, think, move, behave, all of that. It's going to help you a great deal.
It helps you obviously to understand the way the world is sort of kind of processing right now.
Yeah.
We see these two extreme schools of thought that sort of kind of operate in our political system under the titles of, Democrats and Republicans. And these two extreme, schools of thought, it's always interesting to me, like we have the Senate. I'm like, why y'all can't march back to the middle and figure out a way?
Sir.
To help.
It's just like they being contrary and difficult for no reason. If you say A, I'm going to purposely say C. I'm going to skip over B and go all the way to C. Like, stop. Come on.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right, because having that study under your belt helps you to understand people a lot better, and especially in this space where I probably would be burning down buildings. I understand the psychosis. I understand that what we're dealing with is just bad ideals,
correct,
and that just need to be challenged.
That's it.
And challenged with solid information, and then watch this challenge with a level of empathy and patience, and so I get it. So I'm always
Charlie, and for that, I'm sorry to cut you off, but recognizing that you can be wrong too. That is a crucial piece that people got to understand.
That part.
Some of the stuff that we talk and we spew, we ain't researched it, we ain't studied it. Grandmama them told us, it sounded good to us. Cognitive stuff has kicked in, confirmation bias, all of that kind of thing. And we got to recognize that we could be off course. And when you humble yourself to that place, it opens you up for that fluidity and that flexibility of thought.
That's so real, because I find this to be so true. Most people on either side, whether you're black or white, oftentimes people don't really want to have a conversation. Yeah. They don't want to have a dialogue. It's more of a monologue.
That's it.
It's like, well, this is what I think. It's like, yeah, I get it. But if we're having a dialogue, then that means that one, you have to listen. You have to listen. So you have to speak. Yeah, there are times when you speak, but when you're listening, you have to listen, but also listen with the intention of understanding.
That's it.
Because if I am wrong, you have to be able to correct yourself in those moments in order for the dialogue to continue.
That's it. And be healthy.
Otherwise, we just end up having these fighting matches, and nobody is, the conversation doesn't progressively move forward. And I think that is a huge problem in our country socially. Sure. We don't know how to talk to each other. We don't know how to have, conscious conversations where both parties come to the table and say, yeah, I have some information. I am open to the fact that if you can provide context and information that I could be wrong and I can correct myself in the process. The challenge is we have people arguing at each other and everybody wants to have their own solo on the alto role.
Right, man. They want that lead mic.
And that's not how you build relationship, right?
Right.
Well, so speak to that a bit.
You broke up a little bit, Charlie. Say that.
Be open to fact. I may be out here wrong. I gotta be open.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
All right, you froze up a little bit, Charlie. Run it back for me. What you asked.
Preacher, can you hear me?
I got you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I got you now. Can you hear me?
No, I was saying that. Okay, good. No, I was saying that people have to be. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
All right, cool. Yeah, so that people have to be open-minded. So we do have to challenge our own ideals. That's the part. That's the purpose of, getting to know you. Obviously, you have to challenge your own ideals. So talk to people about the importance of staying open throughout, not just this process, but just in life in general. Why it's important just to stay open-minded.
Sure,
because we tend to be closed-minded most times.
Discipleship is a result of relationship. We're able to lead people, grow people, nurture people only after relationship has been formed. Let me take you to the church space first, because this is where we see a lot of this, or I see, because this is, of course, the field that I'm in. We want to clean fish before we catch fish. And it doesn't work like that. And so even beyond the church space, we've got to come to a place where we can find some common ground, because we actually do have more in common than we have that separates us and divides us. So we start off by finding that common place to engage. You break down defenses, you create open lines of communication, start developing care for one another. And then that can move you to the place of having crucial conversations where people don't have their guard up and their defense up, and we can hear each other clearly, and then be able to articulate our perspective, our pain points, our issue with what they're expressing, understand why they've said what they said, why they believe what they believe, because all of us look at life through different lenses. All of us have a different experience through life that frames how we engage life. And so once we understand what's happened to them, what their story is, everybody has a story. We got to hear the story, and that will then inform you as to why they do what they do, say what they say, think what they think. And that moves us to a place where we can have some collaboration and effective communication.
Absolutely. I think it starts out. I think first we definitely have to generally respect each other, obviously, because I see this happen a lot just in life and just in general. It's amazing how people would discredit someone's life experience. And so, which is so interesting. And so I'm a Black man. I've had some interesting, very frustrating dealings with law enforcement.
Yes.
And so I was saying that to someone that wasn't Black, and it's in their conversation, they said, "Oh yeah, you know, if that really happened," and I had to stop. Oh, stop, stop! What you are not going to do is discredit my life experience, and there's no way. I don't get anything out of fabricating something like that to you in this moment.
Yeah. So
it's interesting how people just downplay and discredit people's life experience, and that's problematic, and that's why that's a bit disrespectful. And so I have learned to, as I'm talking and communicating to people, I have learned to teach people how to handle you so they won't mishandle you.
That's right.
So while we're in mid conversation, it's like, hold on, let me help you a little bit. Let me help you. Yeah, that's real, but that's how effective, you know what I'm saying, communication and relationship kind of goes, right?
Yeah, because lived experience is always going to trump somebody's opinion.
Yeah,
every time, every rip. And we've got to respect the place and space that people have been in and been through, and learn and glean from what they have to share about it.
That's real talk, real talk. So now, so we talked about several things, especially in the life coaching space. Why it's important for individuals, one, to let's talk about that, because it's not a bad thing and I think we have to over communicate this, especially when it concerns the Black community. It's okay to have a therapist. It's okay to have one that you talk to, because I don't even think Black people even realize the levels of trauma.
Yes.
that one that comes with us inherently.
Yes. It's called epigenetic transmission. I know that's a big term, and people look at me like, what the hell did he just say? Epigenetic transmission. That's the passing down of stress and trauma through DNA. And it's been scientifically proven. And so when we look at how we respond as a community, why we don't like certain things, why we view white people in certain ways, that stuff has been passed down. So it may not have directly happened to you, but because it happened to your great grandmama, it's in your genes, it's in your DNA, and it comes down. And so we've got transference issues. There's a myriad of psychological issues that we all deal with within our community. The DSM-5. That's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It deals with mental health disorders and distempers. And it would be wise for some of us to just skim through it and look at some of the stuff in there. And you will see that all of us got a little crazy in us. Every one of us.
Man, please.
And we need help dealing with that. And because this has been taboo in our community for so long, and because church people just want to pray you out of everything and cast everything out of you and all of that. Even in the biblical text, we see issues with people there in the text that were most likely having not a demonic experience, but there was some chemical imbalance, some psychological issue that was taking place. And everything, you just can't pray out. You got to get some help. There's chemical imbalance taking place in your body, and you need some medicine. to get that fixed, to get that thing straightened out. So we've got to move beyond this place of being afraid to talk about mental health. The church trying to shun it. Oh, you don't need to take no pills. Just pray about it. No, hell, they better take them pills before they come in there and turn that sanctuary out.
You know they will.
Man, we got to encourage people to have Jesus and a therapist. You need somebody sometimes just to talk some stuff through.
That's
and
right.
Here it is, Charlie. Here's what got me to a therapist. I went to my primary care doctor for a checkup several years ago, and I'm thinking everything is cool. And he's a Jewish guy. My mom's side of the family is part Jewish. It's Jewish, not part, it's Jewish. So we have those Jew conversations. And I know that community connects you with other Jews. So he's like, Stephen, I got one of my doctor buddies I want you to meet. So I'm thinking, hey, Jews connecting with Jews. We about to make some money. It's about to be a business deal. So I'm like, sure, man, I'll go see him. I pass the information on to my assistant. My assistant sets up the appointment. I go into this office building, nondescript, and we just talking. He's asking me about life, so on and so forth. And so at the end of the conversation, he says, Stephen, we've got two options. I'm like, all right, now we're getting down to the brass tacks. That's what I'm here for. We about to make some money. He says, I can prescribe you, and he runs down a list of prescriptions, or you can make changes in your life. It was at that moment that after hours conversation, I recognized that I've been talking to a therapist. I'm like, oh, okay. My primary doctor did not indicate to me that he saw stuff in my chart that suggested that I was about to get out of here. And I needed to go talk to somebody about what was happening as it relates to the stress of pastoring.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
I made some critical decisions at that point because I didn't want to get on that medicine, all them pills that he was trying to put me on. And I made some necessary and needful changes. That's how I got into therapy. And it's been a tremendous blessing and help. And I promise somebody's watching today and you've been battling this thing by yourself. Nah, you need to get some help. And there's some people out here who are Christian or non-Christian, whatever flavor you want. There's somebody out here. And just because the first person you engage doesn't fit for you, don't quit. Find another therapist, counselor that can work with you and walk you through the stress and the struggle of life.
Yeah, and I also want to encourage Black people to get involved in this space,
Yes.
to become mental health therapists. We need them because we don't have a lot of them in our space. We are the only thing that separates us race-wise is just cultural. You know, that's it. But it's small stuff though,
Yes.
because in life we actually all want the same thing, right?
Yeah, man.
We want to live in safe communities. We want good education for our kids. We want the same things. And so I love what you said because it's so true. There's more that we have in common than that is different. As it relates to this mental health thing, we do have to make sure that we are tending to the trauma that is us. Because what's happening, and we see it over and over in the news, especially I know we see it a lot. You know, Chicago, when I lived in Chicago, and it still is, man, the violence there is so bad. It's so rough. It's tough. But I see it from a different lens. I see that as trauma.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I see that as
Exactly.
it's trauma. It's uninterrupted trauma, and we need to challenge that trauma and challenge those issues, man, so that obviously we can be better for ourselves, and as we are better for ourselves, we're better for everybody that's around us. So the world don't change without each one of us individually. Each one of us have to do some soul searching. We do have to challenge our ideals because our ideals very easily could be outdated. And it's interesting how we want to upgrade. We upgrade our cars, we upgrade our houses, we upgrade everything.
Yes,
but we don't think that we ourselves are due an upgrade. And I'm just want to here to challenge you a bit. Each one of us is due an upgrade, and it behooves us to get around people that's constantly challenging us to be better, and go and see a therapist so we can just dump some of that trauma.
That's it, man.
Get rid of some of that trauma so we can live a life that's really, really free, and not talk free, but real free.
For real, man. I mean, it's like trash. If you keep trash, if you go out of town, you forgot to take the trash out before you go on vacation, you come back, the house stinks. Yeah. The longer you keep garbage in, the stinkier it's going to get. And that's why some of our lives stink, because there's so much stuff that's been piling up and building up on the inside that we haven't flushed out. And we need sometimes that third party who's unbiased, non-judgmental, who we can just dump and share, and it goes nowhere but that office space and then the notes that they need to take. And for most people who have insurance, your insurance covers therapy. So please take advantage. You're paying every month. Take advantage of it.
Yeah. That is, man, that's real talk, man, and it's good talk. And I don't think we can over communicate that enough. The importance of taking care of your mental health. My first moments of clarity that I ever did, probably back in March, right when Thug Rona came to the earth. I was talking about the importance of getting to the core of who you are, finding out who you are. You never find out who you are by being around other people. Um, and so you do have to, spend some long time with you. And it's perfect for me. I'm a natural introvert, so that's not hard for me to do.
Yes,
Is
sir.
to, be by myself and constantly challenging my thoughts and challenging my ideals. That's a great place for me to be. I love being in that space. And I actually had to develop extroverted tendencies based on my callings and responsibilities.
Right.
But preference, I would rather be by myself, working on stuff, getting stuff done, pushing stuff out, managing all my projects and my events, and not having to deal with anybody.
Nobody. I'm with you,
But yeah,
man.
we do have to develop. I always say it this way: introverts have to learn how to speak up, and extroverts need to learn how to shut up.
Shut up. Consider that stolen, sir.
It's real, man. It's
It's
real,
real.
man. So, bro, this has been freaking amazing.
Man, thank you. This has been
The
fun.
conversation has been really, really great. I do want you, all of my guests, please definitely make sure you go follow Steve Thurston. He's on Facebook as well as Instagram. His website is strolling on the bottom of the screen, stephenjthurston.com. Please check him out. He's such a dope brother, such a dope soul, and I'm just honored that he took time to be a part of this Moments of Clarity today. So, Reverend Dr. Preacher Man. Uh, any final thoughts for our viewing audience? I know your schedule's pretty tight, so any final thoughts?
Man, I want people to continue to challenge themselves, to have those mirror moments, to examine self, to discover like if you really like you. I don't think a lot of people like themselves, but yet they expect other people to like them or want to engage them. Whenever I do series or workshop seminars for singles, the first question I ask: would you date you if you met you? So we've got to recognize: do we really like ourselves? And if not, today's a great day to start the metamorphosis, the transformation, to find those things that we don't like about ourselves, discover why those things are there, and then move to a place of shifting and making the change. There was a lie that was told about the work done by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. Many of us have heard it across various mediums that it takes 21 days to change a habit. That's a lie. That is not the complete work of Dr. Maxwell Maltz. I would challenge you to do your homework on that to discover what it really is. But actually between 18 to 256 days is what it takes to change a habit. And depending on the severity of it, what it is, and who you are. And so it's going to take work, energy, and effort to make change and transformation in your life. But I promise you, it's going to be worth it at the end of the day. As you become better, those around you, those in your circle of influence, they become better. So that's my challenge. Change what's within so that you can change what's around.
Man, that is dope. I have a T-shirt. I'm gonna send it to you. Send me. I'm gonna send you the T-shirt. The T-shirt. It says you have to go in order to get out.
That's it. I like it.
It's real rap. So please send me. I'm gonna send you that T-shirt. It's real though. We do have to make sure that we're challenging ourselves and challenging our ideas. There's so much that Stephen said that was just that just spoke to all of my shandos. So appreciate you, Doc. Spoke to all of my shandos. There's so much stuff, even as it relates to our DNA. Well, people don't understand it. So there is trauma that's passed down in our DNA, but then our DNA is constantly trying to correct itself too.
Yes.
As things are constantly being exposed to us, that
Yep.
should provoke us to movement, to change, right? And so your DNA is constantly trying to correct itself. That's why even if there's like a genetic like sickness in your body, the reason why you have information about it today is because you the responsibility is yours to change the behavior. So if you got diagnosed with type 2, then you change that behavior as far as your diet and what you're eating to correct that behavior and correct your DNA, so that same thing don't come to your children. So the same way, we have to challenge our ideals that come to us generationally. We are influenced by our ancestors. So we have to challenge those ideas, black and white. And no matter where you come from, we do have to challenge our ideals. And so that's a big part. That's a big part of your maturation process.
Yes, sir.
Because if you don't, then you are setting yourself up to be a dinosaur out in these streets.
That's it, man. You did. Anything that's not growing is dying.
Man, real talk. Stephen Thurston, man.
For my church people, anybody who's resisting change, you're actually the Antichrist, because Christ was about change in every way, shape, form, or fashion. So if you reject change, you're Antichrist. Think about that.
Man, say that one more time for the other saints that just walked in the room.
When you look at the life and the legacy of Jesus the Christ, everything about his ministry was about change. And so if you're a person that's always against change, fighting against it, you're the biggest hell raiser in church when they try to change something, you're actually functioning as the Antichrist, because you're anti-change.
That speaks volumes to the world that we live in right now, because we just wrestle with these old ghosts that don't want to let go.
Yes, sir.
And they don't want change. And I'm telling you, when you're not, here's the thing I always challenge people as it relates to change. We were actually designed. We were designed by God for change.
For change, yes.
And one of the clear indicators of that is that your body changes without your permission.
Yes, sir. Correct, sir.
Your body changes without your permission. I remember being 18 and having all that energy and all that great metabolism. I remember.
I remember that day.
And if I had my way, I would keep it. But your body changes without your permission. And so that is a clear indicator that we were all designed for change. It's just important that and I understand it. It can be messy. Change can be messy. Sure. Change can be, challenging. But that's why we're in life class, right? It's a progressive movement forward. You shouldn't want to be the same. If you're the same person you was yesterday, it's a problem.
It's a problem.
You should be. It's a continuum. So when the Bible talks about changing your mind, it's a continuum. It's not something you do one time just stop. It's a continuum. It's a continual process. You're constantly changing your mind. It should be changing your ideals. Stephen J. Thurston.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you, Charlie.
Man, thank you, man. This was so much fun. I hope you had as much fun as I did. Just our process, man. This was great. Great chopping up with you. Great connecting with you again, man. And so you're such a blessing. So I just want to encourage you, man. You inspire me. If you're looking for somebody like, hey, man, you're inspiring me every day. So thank you so very much,
man. That means a lot.
For doing what you do, and thank you for being who you are, man, for being just authentic and real and raw, all that stuff. We need more of that. And so I celebrate you, King. I appreciate you, man. And let me know how I can assist you in any way possible. Just hit me up. I'm going to send you that shirt, so send me your address so I can send you that shirt too, bro.
Let's do it.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate you. Hey, guys, please follow Stephen Thurston on social media, but also follow his website. Go to his website as well. This has been Moments of Clarity with my boy, Stephen J. Thurston. I'm so excited. We've had such a great conversation. It was so healthy. And so, brother, I appreciate you, man, so much, man. And so until next time, sir, I salute you, King.
I holla, man. Thank you.
Take care, brother. Oh, man. Listen, Stephen J. Thurston, man, that was so dope. I hope you were inspired. I hope you were challenged. That's the key. I hope you were challenged to be better. That is always the goal. So that should be the goal in life. You should want to be a better version of you. You are due an upgrade. So I just want to challenge you to take some time to tend to your right? Tend to your emotions, tend to your soul, tend to you, right? It's so important that we do that. I would be very, very intentional about doing that. So I just want to challenge you to do that. So there's so much stuff that went forth today that Stephen talked about, man. So much. We talked about, it was just a wide range of conversations. So this was probably one of my favorite lives. So please like, please share, please go follow Stephen Thurston. Check him out on his website. He also has a podcast that he does called Mirror Moments. You can go to his Facebook page and find out about that. Man, it It is off the chain. I watch them. They are really, really, really good. So I encourage you, go check him out. He does his homework. He really does his homework really, really good. And so the information that you'll get from his podcast is always on point. So again, until next week, I want you to stay positive. It's important that we choose positivity. There's so much that's going on in the world that we can be negative about. So I want you to choose positivity, right? Be positive, stay creative, right? Stay creative out in these streets. Those of you that are creators, I want you to be intentional about creating. This is a safe space for you to create in. So create as much as possible. Even through the pain, create. Even through the frustration, create. Even through the anger, create. You can't create anything bad. So definitely stay creative in this space. And until next Tuesday, we're going to have a dope show for you next Tuesday. We're going to continue our life coaching series. So there's a lot of great things going on. So follow me so you can get more information about that. Stay positive, stay creative, people. And most importantly, stay clear. We'll see you on Tuesday.